Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Judd Hendricks. I'm the Executive Director with Interfaith Paths to Peace, and I want to welcome you to our Tuesday programs that we're going to be doing all year, actually for the next 2 years, a program called Cultivating a Soul-Centric City. We're trying to develop or uplift and highlight a path, practitioners, and practices that help us craft a soul-centric city, a way of deepening our human development with a emphasis on soul and spirit, and what would it look like to do that. So I want to welcome you. This is our kind of first month of programs that we've been doing that are kind of an overview, and we're looking at some different resources. Today, our panel conversation is on soul crafting organizations, soulful spaces and places, and we're looking at all of the amazing resources in and around Louisville area to craft our souls. And we have such a rich community in all of those offerings. And we have some really dynamic organizations represented, as well as dynamic individuals here to share about those organizations and what they do. So thank you for joining today. I do want to encourage you, if you're listening, we will have an opportunity. If you're watching on Facebook, you can put a comment in the Facebook comment section. We'll try to bring that into our conversation after our panelists speak. Also, if you're with us on Zoom, there'll be a chance for you to enter into the conversation. We're trying to practice a soulful conversation, and to do that, it's really important to kind of be present to ourselves. And so I'm going to invite our panelists, if you're on Facebook or on Zoom, let's just take a moment to take a deep breath. I'm sure you all are coming from a variety of different places and spaces. And so I invite you to connect to your body for a moment. As our conversation continues, just be very aware of what emerges for you, what insights, what happens with you when other people are speaking, and we'll have a chance to bring that into the conversation. So pay attention to that. I'd also invite us to open up our hearts. The idea of the soul of a city means that there is this presence that connects all of us, all the way down to Sisters of Loretto, all the way over to the Mount St. Francis. This whole area is filled with a soulful presence. And if you can, for a moment, just drop into that presence that connects all of us, even though we're not together necessarily physically. We can feel each other in some way as we rest in the soul of our area. We even have some folks on Zoom from Florida. And so we can even open up our hearts to Florida. And that's a way of practicing soul crafting, is us to be present to each other. Not let the technology keep us from feeling one another. One of the things I do like about Zoom is, as you all are speaking, I can just send you love and light and grace. I can look at you and imagine you surrounded by light. And so let's practice that as each of us are speaking. Let's hold one another in that light and presence, that intention. Well, again, welcome. Thank you for being in this space and giving some time, and a deep appreciation for all of our panelists. These are really amazing people. The process, well, I just really have 2 questions, an opening question and another question. I will invite them to share a little bit about themselves as we go. And so let's jump in. Again, thank you, panelists, for being here. I want to start. The first question is really just an introduction question. The question is, introduce yourself and the organization that you represent. Share a little bit about your story. That's always important. That brings you into this work. And what do you really love about your work and your organization? So that's kind of the opening question. And panelists, you've got plenty of time to answer that. And let's start with you, Joanne. Joanne is with the Sisters of Loretto and Cedars of Peace. If you haven't been down there, what a beautiful space to cultivate your soul. Joanne, thank you for all the work you've been doing. And I did want to say, I told Joanne already, but my mom is such a big fan of Joanne's. So Joanne, welcome also on behalf of my mother. So thank you for being with us, and introduce yourself a little more.
Thanks, Judd. So my name is Joanne Gates. I am from Louisville, born and bred. I am not a sister. I'm a co-member of Loretto, but have lived here on the grounds since 2003. And in 2005, began doing this work with the Nobbs Haven Retreat Center. And I am, when I speak, except about myself, I'm also speaking for Cedars of Peace and Susan Clausen, who's the director of that. Nobbs Haven is on the grounds of the Sisters of Loretto Mother House, and we generally serve groups who come for retreat, although we also serve individuals. Cedars of Peace is a cluster of 7 hermitages, so individuals come there for a short or long period of time. Hermitages, of course, the name implies that one person, sometimes 2, stay in a hermitage. When I was in my early 20s, I began working in Louisville. I was doing work with children and adults, mostly adults who had really severe developmental disabilities. And I would come down to Loretto, to Nobbs Haven, about, I don't know, several times a year, just to push my reset button and, you know, what quiet does, helps you remember who you are and who you want to be, kind of work you want to be about. And I remember thinking at the time that it would be really neat to do the work that Nobbs Haven was doing, like to be the director, but I thought that, you know, that I couldn't imagine how that would happen. Life went on, and I was out of the country for a while in Nicaragua. And when I came back, I came here to Loretto to settle a little bit. And this job opened up, and I applied for it, and here I am. So I feel really, really fortunate to be able to do this work, really fortunate. One of the things I think maybe the most salient thing that I love about Nobbs Haven and Cedars of Peace and the Sisters of Loretto is that we're pretty earthy in every sense of the word, which includes making big mistakes. and I think we're generally pretty grounded and live pretty simply, such as is possible in this world. But yeah, I think it's our earthiness that I love the most. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. And one of the things that came to me when you're talking about being grounded is you all are experimenting with some green burial space, I know, and maybe we can get into that a little bit more. But Joanne, thanks so much for being on and introducing yourself. Kyle Kramer, Kyle is with the Earth and Spirit Center, which, you know, if you're in Louisville, you all are just amazing people, amazing organization. Kyle, thank you so much for giving some time to be on today, and introduce yourself a little bit more. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, well, it's an honor and a pleasure, privilege to be with you. So just a little backstory on me. I have always been interested in spirituality since I was a young adolescent. I've had a meditation practice, I guess, since I was introduced to it in college at age 18, so about 30 years now. Even studied for the priesthood once upon a time. And I got interested, in addition to spirituality, I got interested in ecology through 2 wonderful mentors of mine, Wendell Berry and Scott Russell Sanders, both writers and thinkers in that space. And I started thinking seriously about life crafting in what I call it in college and later in divinity school. Like, what are the core values that I want my life to be about, as opposed to career planning? And I knew I wanted to have an interior life. I wanted a connection to the land. I wanted to invest in community, do kind of DIY and other creative pursuits. And I asked myself how I can be intentional about building a life around those values. And so I thought, again, with a lot of Wendell Berry in my head, I thought maybe organic farming was the way to go. Bought a farm. Farming is really hard. Farming takes a lot of time and skill that I don't know that I had. And so I ended up falling into a job directing graduate theology and ministry formation programs at a Catholic seminary and a Benedictine monastery called St. Meinrad. And was there for 15 years, loving it, loved that work. And on the side, built green solar powered home and homestead, did a 30-acre organic farm, raised 3 kids, or started raising 3 kids with a very values driven life. Book plug, wrote a book about that one called A Time to Plant, Life Lessons in Prayer, Work, and Dirt, something like that. But 15 years in, I began to get pretty restless. And I was just working in one Catholic denomination. I myself am Catholic, and having to pursue a lot of my values on the side. So long story short, we ended up leaving the farm and coming to the Louisville area so that I could take a position running the Earth and Spirit Center. And essentially, I did that because I saw in that work the possibility for my professional life to align fully with all of my core values of spirituality and ecology and community and creative work. And so what I love about being at the Earth and Spirit Center, I love the values alignment, that it's not just pursuing these things privately for me, but that I'm able to do it in my work. I love that the Earth and Spirit Center does valuable, important, necessary work. You all have probably heard of Thomas Berry, one of our founders or legacy people. And he talks about this fundamental disconnection between us and ourselves, us and each other, us and the natural world. And that the great work is to repair those disconnects in our culture. And that is the work that the Earth and Spirit Center is all about. Very, very big work, big mission. I love being a jack of all trades as an ED. And I love that our organization is a jack of all trades. We work with, and we'll get into this, I think, in round 2, we work with people of all ages. We have just a number of different kinds of programs. Again, we can talk about that later. We are boots on the ground. We have a 27-acre campus. We're very practical in the ways that we invite people to do work ecologically and in terms of activist work. And I suppose lastly, I would say, kind of selfishly, but I think it aids the organization, I have been thrilled at the opportunity to job craft my own position in a way that accommodates my own creative skills and interests, and thereby I hope makes for more value for the community, for the organization. I'm a writer. I write books, I write magazine columns and newsletters and things like that. I love that I have wired that into my job. And of late, 2 years now, I'm a podcaster. So I host the Earth and Spirit podcast, which got picked up by NPR. And I don't have time to do any of that, but I love it. And it's led to some really wonderful, soulful conversations. So I'm really fortunate to be with such an amazing organization and to try to help move it forward.
Thank you, Kyle. It's great to have you in our community, and we'll hear more about the work that you are doing. Thanks. Ramesia, welcome. Ramesia is with Unity, which has been such a spiritual resource for so many in our community, and has some exciting things that are going on with Unity as well. And Ramesia Umadavi, welcome. Thank you for being on, and introduce yourself a little more.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, the opportunity to share space with all of you and all of you that are joining the conversation. So my name is Ramisi Umandavi. I am representing Unity of Louisville. Actually, there are 2 churches in Unity churches in Louisville. So there is Unity of Louisville downtown, and then there is Unity of East Louisville in the East End. And I have been with Unity of Louisville for a little more than 22 years now. And we are a spiritual church community that We are currently downtown on Brook Street, but our members we recently had a big vote to accept a contract to sell our building. So that is a possibility. We could be in transition, sort of with the potential for moving. But I've been doing a little of everything in those 22 years at Unity of Louisville. I've been a volunteer in a lot of different ways, helping with our youth and family department. One of my passions has been as a prayer chaplain. I've been a prayer chaplain for more than 15 years, and we've had a program where we offer the opportunity for people to pray with others before and after our Sunday services, and also making monthly calls to members of our congregation where we stay connected with them and offer prayer. And then our Sunday service worship opportunities that we offer in person now, and then also live stream through our Facebook page. And it's really an opportunity to be in spiritual connection with others. So like the conversation that we're having today. And so I just really, really feel passionate about our church and our community and what we offer, the resources to help people connect wherever they are on their spiritual journey and to offer that community. So it's just really love my church and thankful for the opportunity to represent today.
Thank you, Ramisi. There are so many people that have come out of your community that I deeply appreciate. So there's a formative quality in what you all are doing that makes some really amazing humans. So thank you for creating amazing humans. So good to have you with us. Ann Walter, welcome, Ann. Ann is with Drepung Gomung Center for Engaged Compassion. And I don't know what else to say. You've just been such a rock star. Maybe rock star is not the term. You've been you're a saint and a wise woman and a beautiful soul. Thank you for the work of Drepung Gomung, and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Judd. And maybe a little too enthusiastic, but I thank you all for taking time to be here and taking a little time to hear a little bit about myself and my passion here. So again, Ann Walter, I'm the director here at Drepung Gomung Center for Engaging Compassion, and have been involved here since 2007. But I have a long history in interfaith and in interfaith work, justice work, and spiritual seeking work. So you know, my background is native here of Louisville as well. And I always would consider myself a faithful leaning or spiritual seeker, or have a very interfaith heart. So I've always sought and found the wisdom in diverse traditions. It first took me through, you know, I had 21 years of Catholic education, for better or worse, and including in a Master's of Divinity. But that was in cross-cultural communication, cross-cultural understanding. And so have always worked cross-culturally, have always, since as long as I can remember, been involved in what I would call justice work, you know, trying to raise awareness, foster my own awareness, raise awareness in my community, and to those at the margins, and anyone at the margins, regardless of how that's defined. So that has taken many different forms. I worked in the Native American community in Chicago for many years before returning to my hometown here. You know, so have a passion in cross-cultural work. I know as a fact that we are all part of one family, and we are both diverse and the same, very beautiful, and in each in our own ways. And so just, you know, work to bring that to deepen all of our awareness of that. So Drepung Gomung Center for Engaging Compassion is, as I'll say more later, more in a bit, Tibetan Buddhist center. part of it's a North American seat of Drepung Gomang Monastery, which is a large Tibetan Buddhist educational monastery located in South India, and also that's the exile community, also in Tibet. And it's also Compassion Education Center. And so what I'm passionate about here is, well, all the elements of our center, but especially how the important work of training our minds, of recognizing that we are, neuroplasticity. We have neural pathways being formed all the time, and we play a role in how we form them. Not just who we come in contact with, not just experiences we have, but how we think, what we choose to read, what we choose to watch. So I'm very passionate about that. I've been a teacher of compassion cultivation training now I'm in my 4th year, I think, or 5th year, anyway, which is an internationally known program created by Thupten Jinpa, who is His Holiness the Dalai Lama's principal English translator. And it's an 8-week program that helps us expand our hearts and expand our compassion, essentially. I've long believed in the importance of recognizing or tapping into or learning from great spiritual and other kind of wisdom teachers. So reading stories, watching things, if that's your thing to do, to learn more about great people, sitting and talking with them. They're not all famous. And so you can see the image behind me is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who's an enormous influence on my life and has been for many decades. And also other great spiritual teachers. So from all different traditions. So maybe that's all I'd say right now.
Thank you, Anne. No, thank you for being with us. And thank you again for all the work you did in bringing the Dalai Lama to Louisville. That was another deep source of our own cultivation of our soul and spirit in our community. Friar Vincent Peterson, Friar Peterson, welcome. One of the things, I'm so happy to have you on also to this. When I said creating a soul-centric city, I didn't just mean Louisville, I just meant like our region, but region is a little less weird of a word, it's a little less specific. So we definitely love and feel the presence of your work, even though it's not in the city proper. Welcome to our program. Thanks for the work that you do at Mount St. Francis. Welcome. Let's see, you're on mute there still.
Okay.
There you
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very honored to be a part of this gathering, this meeting right now online. I'm my first time here. I'm relatively new here to the Louisville area. And again, yes, it's more than just city-centric, but it's also rural and in natural environment centric, as I would like to see it. I am, again, Father Vince or Friar Vincent Peterson, and I come from Minnesota. I grew up on a farm there, and that's, I think, that really formed me as a child. Okay, so from a strong Catholic family and background, but also with the land. I mean, I think I was the only teenager in high school that had my own garden, besides being on a farm and besides working in our orchards and with the cows of our neighbors and so forth. I had my own vegetable garden. And so I just had always a really close connection with the earth in that way. I am, as I said, a Franciscan friar, and a friar is simply more of a diminutive term for little brother. That's what that means from Italian, okay? And so to be a little brother, and that means to be, to identify ourselves with those who are, should we say, minorities in this world, are small in this world. So that's what Francis, our founder, really wanted us to be as his followers, as Franciscans. I'm new here, as I mentioned. at Mount St. Francis Center for Spirituality, and I'm on the retreat staff, preaching staff, and also I'm the resident friar artist. So, which is quite a, should we say, august title, which means that I do everything from painting and teaching classes, to sweeping floors and tending the flower gardens here. So, and carrying out trash. So, and recycling. So it has, the job description kind of is somewhat endless. It's one of those things I'm working into here at the Mount, but it's a blank canvas because I'm a painter. All right. I love blank canvases because you can do so much. Imagining, visioning, and so forth. And so that's been a lot of fun for me here at the Mount, where I can do that work with other members of the staff here, other friars, and our extended community that we have here. It's really, that to me is the great work, I think, as Kyle said, the great work that has to happen for us to get through this time of climate crises and other crises that we're facing as humanity. So I was asked to come here after many years working in parishes and other retreat centers and formation, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to have worked in many different communities, New Mexico there with the indigenous communities, as well as Mexican American communities along the border in El Paso, Texas, and Washington, D.C. And there I worked in African American community parish, and else. And so I've had quite a rich experience, and I feel very blessed by that. And so I have a background in a lot of social justice causes and issues, and I have, but especially I think for myself right now, the greatest existential threat to us is the environmental situation. And I think as everything else is so important right now with, racial equity, working for reconciliation, for, the poverty, and working, to, develop, working with other countries in developing world. All of that is so important, but ultimately that which is going to threaten all of that, any work we do, is going to be climate catastrophe that will nullify any of that. So I believe that at the basis of all that we're doing, I think work for the climate, addressing climate injustice or climate crisis can unify us, can be that one of those unifying things that all humanity can get behind, as Pope Francis would say. Okay, so now as Franciscans, we are kind of part of officialdom, but also we have a foot too, should we say, in the margins, okay, or in the side or those kind of the secular society, I guess you would say, or the other parts of society and culture. So we kind of straddle that, that's part of our charism as Franciscans. And I think that's a very wonderful place to be. Sometimes difficult, but I believe that's where we are called to be as a Catholic organization here. As a Catholic organization here, we are open though to all peoples. We are a center for spirituality. We host a lot of different groups here, that different churches and different faiths and secular groups. But we also do a lot of sponsoring. We sponsor our programs as well in spirituality and prayer and so forth. So we do have quite an extensive things that we do sponsor, all the way from our arts department and our classes in painting and ceramics, to a lot of earth care programs, such as our Earth Day celebration that we're going to have here in April, and bird watching things that we do here on this 400 acres plus of land. This land here was given, we've been here for over 110 years. Before us was a homestead. Before that, it was the hunting grounds for the Shawnee and the Piakansa people. But we believe that we have a legacy to continue and maintain here on this land, and to share it, and to steward it. So thank you. I think I've spoken a little bit longer than I should have, but thank you.
No, thank you for being here. What a beautiful, we all just need to go have a retreat together and sit around and be with each other more. So this is like a mini retreat for all of us. I do want to go back. One of the questions is soul crafting. And specifically, when you all came up in my awareness around who to invite, there was this connection with space, like programming, space, spirituality, soul. You all have already mentioned the physical environmental space of your places and buildings, but I'm really interested in what are these, not just programs that shape our souls, but sacred space. And so if you all would share a little bit more, I would like for people to know about your programs, specifically that people could participate in, but I'd also like to hear you reflect a little bit on that interconnection. How is sacred space connected to soul cultivation? What's your kind of theories and thoughts about the intersection there? How your programming reflects your methodology of change or personal growth? Anyway, I just asked, as I was sharing earlier, that was like 8 questions that I'm wanting you to reflect on, and I trust that you'll say whatever comes up to you that feels important. Joanne, I do want to go back and start with you all. I was aware of this really beautiful kind of deep Catholic holding of our region, of this area, and before we got on, some of you were talking about going to Catholic schools. And so I just kind of want to bow for a moment to like that deep history of Catholicism, that's held a lot of this kind of region and space, and give thanks to that. So Joanne, jump in. Welcome back. You're still on mute there.
Thank you. I appreciate what you said about the Catholicity of this Central Kentucky area. And there's so much shadow in this story as well. Like Friar Vincent said, there were Shawnee peoples here before white people settled here. And we all know the story of that. Some of the women that came from the Northeast, the families that came from the Northeast, the priests that helped to found this community, held persons in slavery. This is so difficult to say out loud, but Loretto recently, in digging through some of its history, learned that a man named Tom was sold to purchase some of this land. So it's just it's so important that we hold the light and the shadow of our story. Even though it's very difficult, very, very painful. I think it's great in a way that I'm the one who's going first of the 5 of us, because at Nobbs Haven and Cedars of Peace, we don't do any sponsoring of programs. We hold space for individuals and groups who want to come, but at least since 1975, when we began, we haven't done our own sponsoring of programs. We will sometimes serve as facilitators for groups if they need someone to help do that, but even that has lessened. And honestly, both Susan and I are, what would I say, like the framework or the scope for which we're willing to serve as facilitators has gotten more and more narrow, so that it's mostly around things related to Earth and the sacredness of Earth and our own personal, human, collective transformation vis-a-vis what the Earth and the world needs at this time. This morning, when I was trying to think about our role in terms of programming and soul crafting, I guess, I was thinking of us, of Cedars and Knobs, as sort of a potter's wheel. And Susan and I and our housekeeping staff and our maintenance staff and the grounds people and the sisters who live here, we sort of serve as the ones who maintain the wheel. We try to keep it well oiled so that it moves as it should. We try to keep the rough edges smooth for the most part. But that's really it. We don't run the show, and groups or individuals come sort of as lumps of clay, and they plop themselves down on the wheel. And then either in very intentional ways, like through group facilitation, or if someone comes with their own agenda, they do their own action there on the wheel, or sometimes are just waiting for whatever you might call it, spirit, grace, God, presence, to start the wheel turning. And we are the ones, sometimes in very informal ways, sometimes through spiritual direction that we offer. We are the ones who get to bear witness to beautiful things and painful things, painful openings and healing that takes place just by virtue of people's being here. We are very conscious about the land and our stewardship of it. Don't take that to mean that we are perfect about it. But we are really conscious about trying to provide a space that nurtures life, that nurtures healing, that nurtures quiet. We are very aware that, I imagine you could say this too, Friar Vincent, that we are one of the few places, maybe in the world, where you can still see a fairly dark night sky. And one of the few places where people come away and they'll say about some of the wooded areas, it is so quiet, like they can actually hear birdsong or their breath or their mind. And we are just really, really lucky to get to witness that. We're also pretty conscientious about the artwork or the prints or the symbols that we have in our spaces. Ramisi, I think we would love to have you come here. We've been doing some work with Undue Bias, which is a consulting group out of St. Louis. One of the things they've been helping us do is to notice our spaces from the perspective of people from other traditions, other cultures, and learn about what is it about our spaces that might make someone feel at home here? And what is it that might make them feel like a stranger here? So we're trying to be very intentional about that. Cedars of Peace, Susan, some of you who know Susan know that she does a lot of the building and the repair work of the cabins and uses a lot of reclaimed wood. So wood that used to be the porch on the convent that was falling down, or a barn that was nearby. She will reclaim and then use as a floor or a ceiling or a shower in some of the cabins. And that in itself speaks to and promotes a spirit of transformation within the space that we hold. So we don't do the actual programming. And we are so grateful to be able to support, pass on flyers and information about all of you who are doing the programming. But I would say that primarily we serve as a container, and we try to be really intentional about how we build and keep, hold that container.
Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, I've been held by that container many times. Cedars has been a place where I go and do my work. And there's two things that came up for me. One is this idea of the potter's wheel that struck me. Also, the importance of shadow work. I'm kind of a Jungian, or I am a Jungian. And the idea there is that the soul wants to integrate the shadow. And so I think when we talk about soul crafting work, shadow has got to be maybe the first thing. I think Carl Jung would say that's the first thing to creating wholeness, is that you've got to deal with what's not in consciousness. And so that you brought that up. Thank you so much. I just think Cedars has been one of those places where I give space for my shadow to show up. And that's essentially usually what I'm working with when I'm down there, is some part of me that's not integrated. And also, I just want to say, Susan's, I mean, you all don't do programming, but it's always nice to know when I'm down there that Susan's just right up the road. And if I ever get in a place where I need to have some spiritual direction, you or she is there to just be present to me. So even though I am alone, I'm being held by you all in that space. So a deep bow and thank you for that. So Anne, jump back in and tell us more about Drepung. Thanks again.
Thank you. I love the way all the speakers, the wisdom you bring in your own perspective, your own, space, how it really, how they, all of these pieces like connect in, really lean on each other. I mean, I'm a strong believer in our interconnectedness, and have been aware of that from the perspective of different traditions, and also just from my lived experience. And having gotten to connect with all of the organizations that you all represent in a variety of ways, it's just really kind of profound to me. So DGCC, we do make it an acronym just because it's such a mouthful. I like to say that what we try to do is to build compassion in our community, and that's a pretty big thing to say, but it is how do we recognize the suffering of others, connect with it enough that we also want to do something to ease the suffering. So, we come at that from the perspective of a Tibetan Buddhist Dharma center. So we have people who come here for the Dharma teachings. We have Geshe Rabge as our executive director and also our teacher here. We have other monks and, offer prayers and everything that have to do with that. So we have people who are, who would call themselves Tibetan Buddhists, and those who just come because they're interested in the philosophy. And so It provides our programs and classes in that area really provide the concrete steps to growing, what I'd say great hearts or compassionate hearts and altruistic minds and beings, so that we function from a place of care and compassion for others, loving kindness, tolerance, patience, all the great attributes, generosity. And then our Compassion Education Center, which is not religious, offers teachings in a variety of areas, again, toward this mission, compassion mission. And we say our areas are engaged compassion and nonviolence education, earth reverence, and then mindfulness and meditation. We focus a lot on nonviolence awareness and training because, as you all probably know, we may agree with the kind of the concept of nonviolence, but actually putting it into motion is a little more challenging. And so, working on it from our own, our words, our actions, but also our thoughts. And so recognizing also that nonviolence is actually the foundation toward building compassion, because the goal is to not want to harm others. And from that, you might choose then to recognize their suffering and do something to ease it, or want their happiness, or, so that's what we try to share with those who come to us for our classes and our programs. We're also one of our big, there are a couple things that we might say we've always worked on reaching out into the community. It's not about making our own little space and our own little people, it's about interaction. So interacting with the interfaith community. So we do a lot of that. We're the host to usually a group of 6 to 8 monks from our monastery every year who travel around to different parts of the community too. Again, working in Compassionate Louisville, working in nonviolence work. One of the things we do is 12 Days Toward Peace every year. It starts with International Day of Peace on September 21st and ends on International Day of Nonviolence on October 2nd. And the goal is to bring more people into the conversation, bring more people into being willing to work on their own nonviolence practice, because we have to start here, within, in order to even have an idea how to apply that out into our community. And I always say, however we show up is a blessing. Some of us will show up by offering, prayer or spiritual practices for others. Others will show up on their 2 feet in the middle of a large rally. So there are so many different ways, and it's really important to not criticize, I think, other people's choice of ways, and to be faithful ourselves, so it's all about, so that's what we try to do with our those who cross paths with us, who come for our classes, one-off or 8-week process, or being part of 12 Days Toward Peace. We're also the home organization of something called Louisville's Arms of Compassion, and since April of 2016 we've met almost weekly to stand in solidarity with those who've lost somebody to murder in our community. So we share their name, we work on extending, energetically, our arms of compassion toward the families and the great networks that are harmed when somebody has been murdered, and then also to take a pledge of nonviolence. So we've met for, I think it's 231 times this Friday. First of all, in public, in public place before COVID, and we will return to that. But right now we're via Zoom. So again, we know, from contemporary neuroscience that the difference comes by practice. I mean, all of us know that. We get better at something by practice. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, likes to say that he is, he's just an ordinary human being. And what we know is he practices, Mother Teresa, Desmond Tutu, and Thich Nhat Hanh, some of our great people we've lost recently, got to the places that they were because of practice. And so we try to help people practice, essentially, help because we create those new neural pathways so that we can function from a place of compassion and nonviolence and generosity and all that, just without thinking too hard about it. It becomes who we are. Yeah. So that's what I'd say about DGCC.
Thank you, Anne. And, there's something that came to me about this connection between space and spirit, or space and consciousness, when you were speaking, because when I go to Drepung, it feels like there is a type of consciousness that's actually in the space. Like when I walk in or I sit on that cushion, or that it's almost like the consciousness begins to imbibe the material reality that's around it. And then when I'm in it, it allows me to drop into it. And there's a unique, maybe we call it a charisma of that type of consciousness that I get there at the center that I don't experience in other ways. I mean, in other ways, I have other places where I experience this kind of resonance, but there's a unique tinge to it. There's an edge to it that I don't know in any other space. So I think the practice there is imbibing your very physical realities. So thank you for that. I mean, I think that's the work, that consciousness keeps getting dropped into in that space, and therefore the space holds it and invites us to come into it more. So anyway, Ramisi, please join and share more about Unity and the programs that you have going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. So Unity is a spiritual community that offers practical tools and resources to people of all faiths. In listening to Joanne and listening to Anne share, I've been to the Loretto Mother House. We've done several retreats there, and I've loved the grounds and the opportunities. And you're exactly right. The quiet does offer an opportunity to remember who we really are and who we're striving to be, and to make that connection between the two. And we have also had some of the Tibetan monks in our church. And that's been very wonderful to have them there, and to also I remember one year they did their sand mandalas, and it was just really, really amazing. So Unity as a whole is part of the New Thought movement, which is bringing truth principles and the many of the things that we've already talked about, and the idea that we are divine as humans having a spiritual experience, and that our thoughts have creative power. Unity was founded in 1889 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who had started studying New Thought and truth principles and used it to heal various ailments and physical conditions, and then went on to found a spiritual community. Unity is Unity is also a place, in that it has a 1,200-acre campus outside of Kansas, Missouri, and where they offer many retreats and events. And so locally, there are churches around the world that are Unity churches, and also even New Thought in general, New Thought churches like Religious Science or the Christian living churches. Unity offers the prayer ministry. You may have heard of Silent Unity, and it is a 24/7 prayer line where people can pray in any time, and they pray with people on the phone and now online every day of the year. I've called it a lot myself at different times in my own life. And so really being a spiritual community and being a church community, while we have our origins rooted in Christianity, we are of the belief that we welcome people wherever they are on their spiritual journey, and that there are many paths to positive living and to developing ourselves and actually expanding an awareness of ourselves as divine and creative beings. So we offer Sunday services at our churches here in Louisville, where people can come and pray and fellowship together or to receive support. We have a youth and family ministry where we offer an opportunity for our children and our teens and youth to come together and be together while some of the grown-ups are in our Sunday services. And I'm actually, I mentioned, been in Unity for 22 years now, and finally listening to the call to become an ordained minister myself. And so I've been among the lineup here recently of speakers who are like delivering the Sunday message on Sunday mornings and giving that opportunity. So for the things that we're discussing and the opportunities to cultivate, I don't know, I think it might be cultivating a remembrance or awareness of our souls and our growth and our death, and then the opportunities to practice that in our lives and in those places where there might be times of struggle or need or celebration. So across the gamut of our human experiences, and then bringing that, the opportunities to bring that light that is within us and that faith that is within us, to bring that forward in the outward world, and to do a lot of that life crafting and that soul crafting that Kyle talked about. So Unity is one of the many resources that allows people the opportunity and the space and the connection, and really too the opportunity to come together with like-minded people where you can share in that shared journey and that gardening of the soul together.
Thank you. Let me see. One of the exciting things, the Unity building downtown used to be a Jewish synagogue. And so I love that, there's that tradition, and now it's right next door to the homeless space that Stachel Bussey is helping to create called Hope Village. So I love this, inner work and outer work that's emerging in that physical space as well on that block. You got to trust that, which was actually a Catholic, right next door to it was an old Catholic church.
Yes.
So that land that the city bought is now being turned into, so this kind of depth of spirituality and then depth of care, and a lot what you were talking about. I just want to echo that. And I'm also excited about the intergenerational work that Unity does, your commitment to children, and kind of some what we call a cocoon. Next month in March, we're starting on the different age groups for the soul-centric city, and we're going to be looking at birth to 4, but I'm really interested in early childhood cultivation of what they call protecting the innocence in the first, in communities that know how to protect the innocence of children. I'm really interested in that, and a deep bow to Unity for doing that. Kyle, welcome. And I know we don't have all the time. You all do so many amazing programs. I know you don't have, one of the things I think that you all are the largest meditation teachers in the region, right? Or like a tri-state area. You have to go all the way to Chicago to find another organization that hosts as much meditation. Maybe that's true. But Kyle,
Yeah,
tell us
the
about some of your
stats-
programs.
Sure. The stats we have on that, and I mean, who knows if it's exactly accurate, but we have not found a comparable center basically in the central US, just in terms of raw numbers. So you have to go out to the coasts. But yeah, I'm so glad I didn't go right after Joanne, because Joanne's programs are not programs. We run a ton of things. And that's a wonderful blessing. It's got some risks to it that I'd like to chat about too. And I was also struck by what Judd said around integration, because that's what I came up with as I was thinking about our programs and how I might characterize them without listing every single thing. Is we're really trying hard to be integrated. And not only integrating shadow work, but integrating, for example, these three core mission commitments of ours: personal, spiritual development, social and communal commitments to communal health, and ecological care and connection. We're also trying to integrate head learning, sitting in a chair or on a Zoom call and learning things, integrate that with opening our hearts. I think Anne's work is so powerful there at DGCEC in that regard, and integrating our hands. So I mentioned I was an organic farmer for 15 years. Friar Vince, I want to hear where you grew up in Minnesota and more about your farm. But because I have come so to appreciate literally boots and hands in and on the ground. So I want to pick up on something that Anne said in regard to practice. That's one of the things that we're really trying to do in this integrative work. We're, for example, as Anne and the DGCEC does, we try to teach meditation practice, not just meditation theory. So we have all kinds of support systems and structures around that. We try to practice building community. So we have regular support groups that gather. We spin up and empower and support action groups that are devoted to justice work. We partner with the Urban League, for example, and learning about the Path Forward document and doing connecting with or creating groups that do all kinds of work around the 5 planks of that plan. And then practice in terms of ecological stewardship. And Judd, this gets to your question about the importance of place. So we're a 27-acre campus in the middle of Louisville. It's not dark or quiet here, Joanne, I'm afraid, but it is a little sliver of what we hope to be paradise within the urban landscape. And so we're trying to practice ecological stewardship. We have a permaculture food forest. We have rain gardens. We have pollinator gardens. Ramisi, we're trying to garden the soul together, just like you are. We built big wetlands. We remove invasive species. This is a little bit on the down low, but we're creating this new nature discovery playground type area, very much like Bernheim Forest's Playco-system. We have college interns, about a dozen or half dozen every semester, doing a lot of this work with us. We have high school service days. We have weekend discovery nature hikes. So we're practicing actually connecting with the land in a very practical and healing way, and also in a way that recognizes its sacredness. So we have meditation trails with benches and invitations in various locations on this campus to really settle in and to hear the voices of this land, the human voices that have dwelled on it for many centuries, and the more than human voices that still dwell there. We work very much as Unity does. We work intergenerationally. So we have camps for kindergartners or first graders, all the way through nonagenarians, octogenarians and nonagenarians, learning how to meditate in their later years. And we think there's amazing possibilities for synergy there, that we can have cross-generational kinds of programming. we do a lot of youth retreats and wonderful new work there. I'll close though by saying there are some risks to this as I see it. First of all, never look behind the curtain of a meditation center, because you'll often find people running around being crazy and putting out fires and being like chickens with their heads cut off sometimes. And I just want to claim that, first among the guilty, and with, a lot of humor and humility around that. The solution so the risk is we're trying to do too much. And I love what you said, Joanne, about pulling back and back and back. And I don't think that's our particular charism, but I think what we're called to is to do the things we do with laser focus on the mission commitments of ours. And how can we develop this community of transformative learning devoted to personal spiritual development, healthy communities, and ecological thriving. And from a sort of systems perspective, for me, thinking as an ED and a leader, how do we build the systems and the structures here that enable deep work to happen in our programs, among our staff, among our participants, that reduce overwhelm, and who's not, a victim of that tame what Cal Newport calls the hyperactive hive mind, and to let us, to return to your point, Judd, to let us settle fully into our place and to feel and fully experience its sacredness. So lots of stuff going on. I think most of it good, some of it kind of crazy, and all of it fun.
Thanks, Kyle. It is just amazing to watch you all. And also y'all are the source of, if I want to ever get my Ken Wilber on, I can come over there and talk to a lot of your folks. Ken Wilber.
That's right.
Yeah, there's not a lot of places you can go to get your Ken Wilber on, but I can always count on that happening over there. So thanks, Kyle, so much for the work. And we may have some questions here in just a second. But Friar Vince, thank you so much for being on. Share more about the wonderful work that you all are doing and how we can participate in that. You're still on mute there, actually. I'm sorry, I keep putting you on mute. You're not doing that. I'm muting you. Don't take that personally, but.
It wouldn't be the first time. I really appreciate just what I'm hearing here, especially Kyle, what you just said about, we trying to do so much, and that can really be, can lead us to burnout. And as you know, we cannot do it all, but together we can. And I'm just thinking that's the richness of what we're sharing here. You have this, we have this, we don't have this, you have that, and we share it together. Also too, I really loved what Ramisi said. What you said, you use that term, gardening the soul, or actually gardens. and I know joining us today are Larry and Ginny Hunt, who are working with me, with us here in creating a little sculpture garden and a meditation garden right next to our arts center. So hello, but I'm just, it's here at the Mount, I would like to share with you just this I think will really help understand what we're doing here and who we are. This is from the Canticle of the Creatures, or the Canticle of Brother Sun, by St. Francis of Assisi, and it's the inspiration for Laudato Si on Care for a Common Home, written by Pope Francis. Most high, all-powerful, good Lord, yours are the praises, the glory, the honor, and all blessing. To you alone, most high, do they belong. And it jumps down. Praise be you, my Lord, with all your creatures, especially Sir Brother Sun, who is the day and through whom you give us light. And he is beautiful and radiant with great splendor and bears a likeness of you, Most High One. And praise be you, my Lord, through Sister Moon and the stars. In heaven you formed them clear and precious and beautiful. And it goes on. As naming and relationship of the elements of creation, and it goes into humans, people, all the different species. The idea is it's relatedness, that we have to get away from how we've objectified not only the world and the natural world, but also one another. And so it's about relationship and bringing back that relationship. And that's what we are about here at the Mount St. Francis. We hope to be a place of encounter, where people encounter one another, they encounter the creation, they encounter God, they encounter, and that there is all ultimately soul work right there. It's not just an individual pursuit, but it's us together. And that soul work is an inside thing, but it's an outside thing too. And so, what we're doing here is, if anybody of you have been to the Mount, we have something, I don't know, something like, I've heard 10 up to 25 miles of trails. I don't know about that, but it's through climax forest or hardwood forest and prairie and restored prairie, lakes, streams, and so forth. But in that, and integrated in that, we have a hermitage, we've got shrines to the Mother of God, to Saint Anne, to Saint Catherine, Our Lady of Guadalupe. We have a meditation path, a Genesis 1 meditation path that reflects on the days of creation, and that the whole idea of creation. And we're wanting to put that into a number of different languages. Also, our Stations of the Cross, our peace pole, and the list goes on, our labyrinth. So we have a number of places to help people enter into that their soul by that outward. Okay, so we are connected. We're not we've lost that sense of connectivity to the planet and to the earth, and to one another. And in these times of division and so forth, and anger and hatred, if we can help be a place here where people can encounter healing. I mean, we have our Franciscan Earth Care Initiative, which is, again, putting into practice Laudato Si. We've just tripled the size of our solar array here. We have an EV charging station. We've got geothermal, and we want to do more on that area, earth care, recycling, reducing, repurposing, composting, all of that. Maybe we're trying to do too much. We've got to be careful of not getting caught into that we lose our centeredness. So, and also too, Ramisi, with Unity, they had the Forest of Peace, or Forest for Peace. Is that what that is in Missouri or Kansas City area? Anyway, but that idea of a place of peace, a place of prayer. And we hope that, that the Mount can be that place.
Thank you. You are that place. I've experienced those experiences in your space, and thank you for holding that space. We've got just 10 minutes left, and what I'd like to open it up to our participants as well. What really moved in you? I kind of want to tend to the space we've created. What do you want to echo? What, for participants? Feel free to come on and just share briefly, because I want to give our panelists a chance to check out. But if you're a participant on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself and just share something that was really meaningful to you in 15, 20 seconds or 30 seconds, something like that. But I want to open it up to participants. Anybody want to share what's come up for them? Again, just feel free to unmute yourself.
I can share for just a minute.
Please.
My name's Kathleen Adams. I actually live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I was born and raised in Louisville, and I plan on retiring in about a year or so and moving back to Louisville. I've been gone for over 30 years. And my dad went to church at St. Agnes. And so I became aware of the Earth and Spirit Center by attending Mass with him whenever I visited, and started following them on Facebook. And then I saw this invitation. So I know when I move back to Louisville, I want to connect with like-minded people. And and these are all the organizations and types of things that I want to experience when I move back. So thank you for letting me listen in. And if you do more of these Tuesday things, I'll try to do that. I'm at work right now, so I was people were coming in and out of my office, but I was trying to pay attention the best I could. But thank you. I appreciate all your comments. Sounds like there's some wonderful work going on in Louisville.
There is. Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for being on. Yeah. Good. Our hearts go all the way to Michigan. So where in Michigan did you say you were again?
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids.
So I'm on the west side.
We'll expand our hearts even to Grand Rapids today. So thank you for being on. And yes, the idea, and that's the idea of the soul-centric city, is Louisville has everything everyone needs to thrive. We just need to be more connected to ourselves. So that's one of the ideas. Barry, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do.
Thank you for being on.
I'm in Kansas City and just found out about all of you recently in the last few weeks, and I've been tuning in each Tuesday since, and I've been very impressed. Panelist after panelist has just been super impressive. I was a little bit late in joining today. This might have been covered. I apologize if it has. I'm hearing a lot of beautiful statements made about connecting with the earth. I'm not hearing, and maybe it's because I missed them, any certain urgency to that regarding what is happening with our planet right now. Has that concern or reality impacted the work of those who have spoken about the importance of remaining in contact with the earth? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody want to jump in? Yeah, it was definitely mentioned before you got on. I think Friar Vincent said that when it comes down to the common denominator, that's for them one of the most, if not the most important issues arising for us is earth care. Anybody else want to speak to that?
I'd like to share with something I just read. I'm trying to remember who wrote it, but it said something like this: the only way through this climate crisis is through repentance.
Yeah.
Turn around. Yeah.
Well, and if I could,
please.
It's always hard to follow a Franciscan friar.
That's pretty easy, actually.
Follow from way behind. I am thinking of this strange saying. I think it comes from the Marines. Slow, when you really have to get something done, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And when I think about the urgency of our climate crisis, and I'm all there, we're the Earth and Spirit Center. We're in the middle of not only a climate crisis, but the sixth extinction. But I think at the same time, if we, first among the guilty, if we run around with our hair on fire, we will not make good choices. And good choices need to be made in a compressed time frame. And so we see it as our work to give people the tools and the information, but the tools to make good choices. And you make good choices when you have space, when you slow down, so you can be smooth and therefore be fast, and be non-judgmental and not burn yourself out in 5 years of our 8-year time window or 3 years. So I think this is a paradox where, yes, it's so urgent that we have to be careful and deliberate about how we go about it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I want to echo here Carl Jung, who said that psyche and nature are not anything different. So also don't want to dichotomize human work with, we are an expression of nature. And so if we're going to deal with the soul has to deal with nature. The psyche and nature has created is manifesting the human soul. Those aren't even different things. So of course, all that work is, we've got to care for nature and environment, because it's not anything different than who we are at the core.
And Lao Tzu said it best. I have it on a little post-it next to my screen. Nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I do. I want to again give a, well, actually, we're out of time. I've got 5 minutes and I want each of our panelists to be able to check out. And what a checkout is just share what's come up for you in our conversation. Maybe you want to echo something or share just kind of where you are, but we've got 5 minutes and 5 panelists. So I'm going to go in opposite order. Friar Vincent, if you could check out, that would be great. Thank you again for your wisdom and being on today.
Thank you. Just real quickly, I feel a need to be more connected to all of you. Okay, I mean in a real way. Okay, and so each one of you has something for me personally, but I as well for us here at the Mount, and maybe we have something here for you as well. So I feel quite humbled to be part of this this beautiful group of folks. Thank you.
Thank you. May it be so. And would you go next and check out? Thank you for being here.
I'm grateful, feeling gratitude for interconnections. And, you know, I am, as I said earlier, abundantly aware that we are, all of us are deeply interconnected. We are because of each other. You know, we all, everything leans, we are all, and so to make a connection with some of you in a different way is very heartening to me. And, you know, just to mirror what you said, Friar Vince, we are stronger together. Lots of wisdom here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Ramisi, would you mind checking out? Again, thank you for being present.
Just joining in this train of gratitude of the connection. Barry and I shared a chat with each other, and he was joining in from Kansas City, and I mentioned that Unity Village is in Kansas City. And so at first I was going to say what a coincidence, but then I was reminded that there are no coincidences in spirit. And so I think that just as we are on a panel, we probably could have turned it around to the other people that are on this call and then learn just as much and expand that just as much and to contribute just as much. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity and the connection, and giving thanks in advance of the gifts that will come forward from this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and a reminder, y'all are welcome to put your contact information in the chat box there. That will also be included on the Facebook. After it's over, I'll put contact information there. So feel free to do that. Kyle, please check out. Thank you.
Well, I'm the gratitude broken record too. Just deeply grateful for everyone on this call, and I echo everything that's been said. And I have to just say, what a profound relief to know that there are so many other folks out there doing so much good work that's complementary but different from the work that the Earth and Spirit does. And it feels like such a burden lifted that none of us has to save the world on their own. And even if some of us may sometimes be tempted to that. So I'm grateful for the permission to recognize that the things that we can't do well, Joanne or Anne's organizations or anyone else can, and vice versa. So we are stronger together, and just grateful for that.
Thanks, Kyle. Bill Plotkins, who we're using as a kind of a guide for some of the soul-centric city work, talks about the soul as being your unique niche in the world. Yes. So if we can all of our organizations can find their soul, then the city can find its soul, you know, in that sense that we all find our unique role individually and collectively. Thank you for bringing that in. Joanne, you got the last word. Thanks so much for being with us, and check out, please.
At the very beginning of this one, Friar Vince was introducing himself or being introduced as not from Louisville. I just wanted to say that I, for one, and tens of thousands of youth, now adults, have been formed through the work and the container of Mount St. Francis. I mean, just, there's no way to count. And then when I think of people connected with unity and Drepung Gomang and Earth and Spirit, it's just, it's not about numbers, is it? But when you think about the depth that's being cultivated and the breadth. And in addition to echoing the gratitude of other people, I just want to say, Kyle, Judd, in the beginning, you invited us to pay attention to what was happening within us, within our bodies, as we were hearing each other speak. And I just noticed myself like sinking deeper and deeper and quieter, and being able to speak from a place of soul and heart, not just head. And I just so appreciate that about this conversation. Thank you so much for the privilege of being here.
Thank you. And thanks to each of you. Yeah, I just, I leave fulfilled. Kyle, I think you said it, like that sense of, wow, like all of these amazing people doing this work all over the country. I mean, the joy of having so many people from different places is really beautiful and touching. And so thank you all. Deep bow to each of you. We do these programs every Tuesday at 12 o'clock. Next month, we're moving into looking at using Bill Plotkin's soul-centric wheel and looking at different stages of development. So in March, we'll be looking at 1 through 4, April is 5 through 12, and June will be teenagers. And we're asking the similar question: what are the resources in Louisville to cultivate holistic soul-centric development? And so we're going to be interviewing birth doulas the second week of March. We're going to be looking at religious education, the importance for religious mythology and sacred images in the formation of child's religious imagination. So we've got all kind of great programs. Again, 12 o'clock to 1:30 every Tuesday. Thanks for being with us. You're also welcome. I'll put in the chat. These programs are free, but we're looking for 100 people to give $25 a month to support Soul Centric City over the next 2 years. Again, the first year is highlighting what's already here, and the second year is creating what's not here that needs to be here in the form of paths and practices and communities. So thank you all for being a part of that, and look forward to staying in touch with each of you. You're welcome to unmute and do the collective goodbye. Thank you. Thank you all.
Namaste.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, you all.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Cheers. Blessings.
Peace and good.
Thank you all. Peace.